This is 7-5 Radio with Walter Yerkew and Peter Scoop Stanton. This is the radio show that will break your neck, if your neck needs breaking. And here are the hosts of 7-5 Radio, Walter Yerkew, star of the biggest documentary movie ever made, The 7-5, and Peter Scoop Stanton, who starred in To Catch a Predator.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, one and all. This is Peter Scoopston with Walter Yerkew, coming to you live tonight from the We Will Survive Cancer Sunset Polo event in Middleburg, Virginia. It is Saturday, September the 6th, 2025. We are red hot and rolling, just Walter and myself. Mr. Rakebrandt took sick. Apparently he was got sick smoking racoon poop once again. Anyways, Walter, how are we doing tonight, my friend?
I'm doing just fine. Just having a little Swiss cheese.
Outstanding. Anyways, we want to say hello to all of our special listeners, including Little Billy Keebler and the men and alleged women of the Yanadasas, New York Fire Department, also known as the Cellar Savers. Also, we want to say hello to New York's finest, New York's bravest, New York's boldest, New York's strongest, and those living on Long Island in the 2nd Congressional District. Anyways, our first order of business, as always, we want to remember those in the law enforcement community who were murdered on the line of duty. Tonight we remember Police Officer Hunter Simonik of the Kansas City, Kansas Police Department, end of watch, August 26, 2025. His killer is in custody. Our first news story tonight is 2 reasons to enact term limits. Now, we all know that the president is only allowed 2 terms in office. Anyways, we get 2 examples out of about 535 of why we need term limits. First off, Congressman Jerry Nadler of Manhattan, he decided he's not going to run in 2026. He is currently 78 years old. He looks 108 years old, and he's been in office for 34 years. His biggest significant accomplishment was to indict Trump for impeachment. Years ago, there was a press conference about something or other that, of course, is like anti-America, and it looked like Mr. Nadler had an unexpected bowel movement, and he shuffled away from the podium, which was really funny. But anyways, I remember him back in the day. He was just coming into Congress. He was in New York State Assembly first, so he's never had a real job. And he's done nothing for the people of Manhattan Island. He's done just nothing for America, just a American-hating, fake, phony fraud. Our second reason for term limits is Representative Ilhan Omar of Minnesota. So anyways, her and Mr. Omar, I forgot the gentleman's name, not her husband, brother, but her somewhat legitimate, or I guess real husband, they amassed a fortune between $25 and $30 million, which is really interesting. The majority of the money does come from the husband's venture capital firm. Now, a venture capital firm is a company that looks at new businesses, and they invest money, put in equity, so on and so forth, but for startups and small businesses and things like that. But it's really interesting that, she's been in office, 8 years, and she married somebody, and they have a $30 million fortune. Now, in her income filings that she's required to do per House rules, she had a much smaller fortune. But I'm sure the fact that Ilhan Omar, being a member of Congress, has nothing to do with her husband's venture capital firm striking it big. Well, what say you about these 2 poor excuses of congressmen that need to go?
Well, first of all, Jerry Nadler, you said he's choosing not to run for another term. Jerry hasn't ran for anything except maybe a sausage biscuit and a and a Monster Coke in the past 40 years. So him saying that he's not running, he needs to be a little bit just specific that he used to be able to run. Find a Nathan's hot dog stand somewhere. Yeah, and I find as I age and I look towards my golden years that because I'm closer to 70 than I am to 60, that if I have an incontinence issue, the last thing I'm going to do is go out in public. And every day, like he does, to avoid these things. And I'm not making fun of anybody that has these medical issues and stuff. However, even these days with the them and they and remember me, whatever groups they have now, people just don't recognize incontinence in a public forum. Even though everybody does it, some people do it. We're trained to do it, but nobody recognizes it. All right, yeah, he took a dump. Ha 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 ha. Okay, well, you did this morning too, and the toilet paper missed your fingers. So, let's not, go there. But he shouldn't be out in public, especially after Taco Tuesday. As far as Omar goes, I think she falls into the category of foreigners that come to this country for the American dream. However, it's the government that hands it to them. I was in a store the other day that used to be owned by Americans. Okay, you remember about 5-10 years ago, it was American owned, gas station, convenience store, a mom and pop shop, general. It was always, they had a little sign in there, American owned. Well, you don't see many of those American owned places anymore. And when you walk into the place, it's not American owned because you could smell the roach and mouse spray. To keep the vermin aside. Anyway, regardless, these people that come over, including this politician, turned into a politician, I think she's funded by the government. I mean, I know she's getting paid by us with our tax dollars, but she's got her hand in so many different American things that she has no business having her hand in. So do we need somebody like that in our system? No, because I don't even think she represents her own people like they would have liked, is why they voted for her. And she's just using this. And people just don't see the insignificance of her input on just about anything she handles. So we have here an older man who should have retired, mandatory 64 or 65, term limited. And we have a young lady here who is from a foreign country. And listen, the millions that she and her husband have together, I'd really like, Elon Musk to look in on that, or somebody like Elon Musk to look in on that and trace the paper trail. And because I think she's about as dishonest as the day is long, and she's not going to change because apparently they feel like they're untouchable, and that's why they go into these positions. They're untouchable. I've seen car accidents where there's traffic backed up with only one small lane open, and some politician comes up and says, "I'm so and so, so and so. I'm a councilman with the United States Congress," and they let him through. I don't know why, but I can't get through. So the fundamental benefits that these people get should be taken away, and see how long they stay in their officers. That includes,
Right.
That includes expense accounts, plane fare. How many times where people fly? Some of these lower politicians fly somewhere and chalk it off to business expense. They'll talk to some local yokel mayor or something just to cover their asses. So that's two losers, and there's more.
Right. Anyways, we come back. We'll talk about three more losers who, do as I say, not as they do. Also, RFK gets the business and gives out the business. Also, talk about this great polo event where I parked my car next to some horse poop. This is 75 Radio on the Liberty News Radio Network.
Are you ready to stand up for your community and support your local sheriff? Join the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association and become a vital member of the Sheriff's Citizens Posse. At cspoa.org, we empower citizens like you through weekly webinars, arming you with the knowledge to back your constitutional county sheriff. Together, we can uphold our Constitution and ensure liberty and justice for all. Your community needs you now more than ever.
Attention collectors and savvy investors. We are excited to announce a momentous evolution in our journey. Introducing Freewater Coin Company, formerly known as Rust Coin and Gift. This rebranding takes us back to the very roots of where it all began, Freewater, Oregon. It's a tribute to the legacy of Al Rust and a celebration of 3 generations of dedication to excellence in the world of coins and precious gifts. Al, Brian, and Jake Rust standing strong through 64 years of service. Discover a world of exceptional service at Freewater Coin Company, your premier destination for genuine, honest money and precious gifts. Under Brian's expert guidance, Freewater Coin Company, building on the legacy of Rust Coin and Gift, continues its tradition of trust and excellence. Visit us at our Provo, Utah location. Explore our treasures online at freewatercoinco.com or call us at 801-377-1574. Freewater Coin Company, where your future is built one honest coin at a time.
This is a battle between truth and deceit. A battle between forces that would enslave this country in darkness and between a media that wants to present you with the truth. We are being censored. America's news outlets no longer provide the truth. 90% of news outlets in the United States are controlled by 6 corporations. The mission of the Epoch Times is to chase the truth, to ground all statements in fact.
TheEpochTimes.com.
You're back, and Scoop is just getting done staring at Danila's Instagram account. Here's more 7.5 Radio.
And we are back. Scoop Stant with Walter Yerkew. Mike is, he's not sick leave. He smoked too much racoon poop once again. Anyways, we're talking about the need for term limits. Ilhan Omar and her real husband, not her brother husband, earned $15 million or tens of millions of dollars in the course of a year. Nancy and Paul Pelosi are the best predictors of a stock in the history of mankind. Forget Warren Buffett. Forget those people on MSNBC and Fox Business. Paul and Nancy Pelosi are able to pick stocks and become multi-millionaires. But the fact that Nancy Pelosi was a Speaker of the House or a House Majority Leader or a House Minority Leader has nothing to do with the fact that the Pelosi's are great stock pickers. Anyways, moving along, more dirtbags. This is like we got to rename this the Dirtbag Show. Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook, who was fired by Donald Trump, turns out she has 3 homes. One in Ann Arbor, Michigan, one in Cambridge, Massachusetts, or right outside of Boston, and one in Atlanta, Georgia. So anyways, Ms. Cook applied for loans for mortgages, and she said she's going to live in the homes where if you live in a home, you're going to get a lower rate where if you use a home for income, such as Airbnb or rental. So she was fired. And nobody in the media decided to go to any of these homes in Michigan, Georgia, or Massachusetts, except our brother-in-arms, Charlie LaDuff. He actually went to the home in Ann Arbor, Michigan, knocked on the door, and an older white guy answered the door. He wasn't on camera, but he answered the door and said he was a tenant. So, anyways, LaDuff proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that Lisa Cook does not live at the Ann Arbor, Michigan residence, and she's in fact using that residence as rental property. Whereas if Walter, Mike, or myself did the same thing, we would be looking at jail time. So kudos for Charlie Duff once again for doing what the media refuses to do. But Ms. Cook is not the only person with power and influence to do this. You have Adam Schiff, Senator Adam Schiff from California, did the same thing for his permanent residence in Maryland. Even though he's a senator from California, he has like a one-bedroom apartment in Burbank, California. And New York Attorney General Letitia James, she bought a house in Virginia, yet she is the New York State Attorney General. So once again, do as I say, not as I do. So you got Letitia James going after Donald Trump on these Trump-up charges, pardon the pun, but she has a house out of state, and she's committing mortgage fraud, more or less. What say you about these dirtbags, skirting the system?
Well, first off, I didn't realize, and I don't live in Michigan, but I didn't realize that there was a bus route from the homeless shelter straight to one of her houses. So kudos to Charlie LaDuff. Knocking on a door and it is okay. I mean, you're allowed curtilage, what he found out, could be, mind-bending to some people. And it could be, open up something else for others. I own other homes. Fortunately for me, I own those homes outright, and I can rent them out. It's the homeowner's insurance that gets me, but I've never committed any kind of fraud like that, and it's a disgrace. And believe me, I've been disgraced. And what happens is that you have to think that I shouldn't. Pardon me if I shouldn't have done that. What can I do to fix this? And I think I fixed myself over the past 35 or 40 years. In some cases, like these politicians and the district attorneys and people like that, again, like the last two we talked about, they think they're beyond reach. They're beyond reach because they can make life miserable for some street cop or miserable for some investigator, in a lower level district attorney's office somewhere, or a reporter or something. So my take on this is that once that's found, they need to be suspended pending an investigation. And there must be a limit on this suspension and the investigation. So if the investigation goes for a year, you get reinstated. If the investigation proves that you did wrong, you did commit fraud, because if you sign your name to an application, I'm showing my age now, when you apply for work, and you tell a fib or an outright lie on that application, and they find this out, even if you've been on, at your work for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years, and it comes up, you'll be terminated because that's what it says underneath your signature. Same thing here. These people, they raise their right hand and put their left hand on the Bible and swear to the Constitution and such. And I think it should be universal that you get suspended and then ultimately let go if you truly, in fact, did this with purpose.
Right. You're absolutely right. And they did this with purpose. But, of course, like I've been saying for years, nobody in D.C. is going to go to jail. And what kills me about Lisa Cook, first of all, she's unqualified to be a member of the board of governors for the Federal Reserve. And, I could go on a whole thing about the Federal Reserve, but we'll save that for another show. But she's unqualified to be a governor, number one. Number two, her and the Fed chairman and the rest of the governors refused to lower interest rates. So people like me cannot afford a house, a condo, a trailer, nothing. But, of course, she's able to afford 3 homes, and she's not paying what the interest rate should be for somebody using it as a rental property. And same thing with Senator Schiff and Letitia James. They're able to afford a house. Meanwhile, people in New York City, they can't afford a house. People in D.C., we can't afford a house. I couldn't even afford a $100,000 one-bedroom condo in Southeast D.C. But don't look for the Federal Reserve to move any interest rates for whatever reason. Forget inflation. So inflation is going down. The Treasury is getting billions of dollars from tariffs, but people can't afford homes. People can't afford cars. If people can't afford homes, guess what? They're going to keep living in the apartments and houses that they are currently renting. So again, people like me looking to move up in life, not stay at Fred Sanford's house for the rest of my life. I can't afford to move anywhere else. But it's just, it goes downhill. But they don't care because guess what? They got their homes. They got their rental income coming in, and they just don't give a flying flip about you. Well, any last words about Lisa Cook and these other criminals?
No, but I hope Charlie, caught the correct bus back to the homeless shelter.
Homeless shelter. Well, I do know for a fact he does have a address, and he does have an automobile. He has a 65 Mustang and a well, I don't know what his other ride is, but poor Charlie.
Yeah. And Joe Biden's got a Corvette, so what's that telling me?
Right. Biden's got a Corvette. I wonder when the last time he took that out for a spin, but he probably got lost when he did take that car out. He probably went to get some ice cream and stopped a female cop, asked him for directions for home, and probably sniffed her hair. But anyways, real quick before we go to the next break, going back to Jerry Nadler, 5 years ago when they had that stupid moment where all the members of Congress knelt, Nancy Pelosi and all these other Democrat traitors. Everybody but Jerry Nadler took a knee. You had 70-something, 80-something-year-old Nancy Pelosi taking a knee for George Floyd, but old fat Nadler, he couldn't get down on the ground. So, so the one time, people took a knee for, the wrong reason, Jerry couldn't be bothered. He's probably worried that he had loose bowels once again. But if you live outside the New York City area, you would know what just an absolute piece of trash Jerry Nadler is. Anyways, hopefully he finds a pair of Depends that will fit him, because despite him having bypass surgery, he's still a very rotund individual. He looks like the Joker from the Batman movies. Well, any final words before we go to our next break?
He looks like the Penguin.
Yeah, yeah. So, anyways,
you said Joker.
Right. Oh, he looks like a penguin, but yeah, that's true. He's a Joker. But oh my God, we can go on forever. But anyways, coming up at the public schools once again in Northern Virginia. Once again, these people give me so much work. Also, talk about RFK and the polo event. Anyways, producer lady, how much time we got on the clock?
How would you like to help this program reach more people and earn silver at the same time? Call or text 801-669-2211 for complete details.
News this hour from Town Hall. I'm Mary Rose. The nation's unemployment rate increased 4.3% in August as hiring slowed way down. Government revisions also show the economy lost jobs in June, the first monthly decline since the pandemic. So who's to blame for the weak jobs report?
U.S. employers added just 22,000 jobs last month. Democrats blame Trump policies for damaging the economy. The president targeted the Fed for not lowering its benchmark interest rate. Speaking with SRN News, economist Richard Stern says the Trump tariffs are dampening.
With the lack of confidence that businesses have in making investment decisions.
But he also said residual Biden administration policies are just as much to blame.
The Biden administration continued to expand regulations in every sector of the economy, making it hard for businesses that already exist to continue functioning and being in business, employing people.
Richard Stern with the Heritage Foundation, George Williams, Washington.
President Trump has signed an executive order renaming the Department of Defense as the Department of War.
We won the First World War. We won the Second World War. We won everything before that and in between, and then we decided to go woke and we changed the name to Department of Defense. So we're going Department of War.
Bankrate senior economic analyst Mark Hamrick says the employment situation remains lackluster.
This is a no-fire, no-hire job market, and it's one where recently consumers and, let's say, workers have been enunciating their falling confidence in the economy broadly, and the job market is part of that.
President Trump is threatening the European Union with a trade investigation after it levied fines against U.S. tech firms. He issued the threat hours after Google received a nearly $3.5 billion penalty in a major antitrust case centered on the search giant's advertising technology business. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Honey, the check engine light just came on and it's making that weird clunking sound again. This is all we needed before vacation. I just know this is going to be a huge repair bill, and our factory warranty expired last month.
Don't you worry your head about it, dear. Remember a few weeks ago when I was looking into vehicle protection plans? I signed us up for CarShield.
You did? But I thought those things were expensive and complicated.
Not CarShield. They have a low-cost month-to-month plan, and it covers our out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Plus, it includes free roadside assistance, free towing, and even car rental options at no additional cost.
Are you serious? So we won't have to pay for covered repairs again?
That's right. They even said we'd pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. It was so easy to get a free quick quote. Now we can focus on our trip instead of repair bills.
Don't wait for a breakdown to realize you need coverage. If you own a vehicle with an auto warranty about to expire or no warranty coverage at all, call CarShield now for your free quick quote. Call 800-330-8323. That's 800-330-8323. Call CarShield now and future-proof your ride. 800-330-8323. Again, 800-330-8323.
You know where the solution can be found, Mr. President? In churches, in wedding chapels, in maternity wards across the country and around the world. More babies will mean forward-looking adults, the sort we need to tackle long-term, large-scale problems. American babies in particular are likely going to be wealthier, better educated, and more conservation-minded than children raised in still industrializing countries. As economist Tyler Cowen recently wrote, quote, "By having more children, you're making your nation more populous, thus boosting its capacity to solve climate change. The planet does not need for us to think globally and act locally so much as it needs us to think family and act personally. The solution to so many of our problems, at all times and in all places, is to fall in love, get married, and have some kids."
Looking for an IT partner that truly understands your needs? Managed IT Services is the answer. We meet with you regularly to discuss your goals and form a tailored technology plan. Our customers have called us a trusted advisor who delivers. When it comes to IT, we do it all. Firewalls, cloud storage, server migration, and more. Say goodbye to long-term contracts and hello to a team that earns your business month after month. Call 801-706-6980 now and let Managed IT Services transform your IT experience.
Have you ever had great honey? No, I mean really good, all-natural, raw honey? Well, now you can, thanks to localhoneyman.com. We can ship out our locally made honey all across the U.S. So don't worry, you won't miss out. Plus, Local Honeyman has so many different flavors, like Utah Wildflower, High Desert Delight, Happy Valley, and Blackberry, just to name a few. So purchase your delicious raw honey today at localhoneyman.com.
you're still listening, here's more 7.5 Radio.
All right, we are back. Scoop Stanton with Walter Yerkew. Had some technical difficulties on the phone. I'm in the middle of Northern Virginia. Anyways, before I was interrupted or went off the air, I don't know even what happened. I started talking about the public school systems in Northern Virginia. Unfortunately, kids do go to public schools in Northern Virginia, and it's just absolutely heartening. You have the Arlington County and Fairfax County public school systems doing a class action lawsuit against the U.S. Department of Education for withholding grant money because these school systems want transgender kids to continue to use the bathrooms and locker rooms of the opposite gender. So Timmy wants to become a Tina, but so he can use the same bathrooms and locker rooms as your daughter. And like I was saying before I got cut off or cut myself off, these school board members don't care about your kids. Most of these people are childless lesbians, and they have an agenda to push, which is not like reading, writing, and arithmetic, but just transgender everything, sex ed, just perversion. So anyways, kudos for the Department of Education for withholding this grant money. And shame on these school systems for spending money on lawyers because they don't want to give the program, because 90% of the country don't want boys in the girls' bathrooms and locker rooms. Well, what say you about this lawsuit that against the feds?
Well, listen, when I was in 7th grade in junior high school, I was all of 12, 11, something like that. And we had health class. All right. And they taught you A to Z within bounds because, we're talking about the early 70s here, and within boundaries. But they taught you A to Z about your body, okay, and general health. And, when it got down to the nitty-gritty, they separated the class. They put the girls in one class and the boys in another class. And, in the boys' class, they taught you about men's private areas and puberty and stuff like that. And I'm sure, over in the girls' class, they talked about women's private issues and puberty and all that stuff, okay? It was, okay, you were born with one of these, you're a man. You were born with, one of those, you're a woman. Now it's like, if you're born with one of these, it doesn't make a difference. You can be whatever you want. Federal lawsuits, they're all fine and good. But why can't we just go by, what's acceptable behavior? It's not acceptable for somebody to be screaming in your ear, my choice, my choice, my choice. Everybody remembers that video, that, ugly woman screaming in the guy's face, my choice. It's inappropriate. Okay. Is it her constitutional right to do that? Yeah. But come on. You're not doing nothing but raising your blood pressure and making people laugh at you. So these federal lawsuits, they're so, it's like trying to fill a sack with a hole in the bottom. It just keeps falling through, and the sack never takes any kind of shape or form. Maybe not in my lifetime, but somebody's going to come up and say, well, I don't give a flying raccoon poop, just to bring Mike into the conversation a little bit. So, it's okay. It's your right to sue, but there are so many frivolous lawsuits concerning everything, especially this, gender nonsense issue. Okay. You have a rule of law that you can't participate in girl sports if you were born a male, and vice versa. So, the lawsuits are just frivolous, and it's wasting time for real suits to be addressed. Last accident I was in, and I sued for pain and injury and such. It took 7.5 years. These people are in court in 7.5 days. So who's getting bumped? And if nobody's getting bumped, we probably don't need those courts if they're not doing anything else. So let's be realistic about it, people. We live under one nation under God, period.
Right. The thing that gets me is that a lot of these students, they want to come out as whatever member of the Alphabet Mafia because they want to be noticed. They want to stand out. They would say, "Look at me, I'm a LGBTQ plus MTA whatever," and shame on the parents who let their kids do this. We talked about this a couple weeks ago with the situation in Minneapolis. These parents of these kids, they want to go from one gender to the other just because, again, social media, mainstream media, all peer pressure, all the garbage that's out there is putting pressure on these kids. So these kids want to stand out or they want to be accepted, even though they don't know what the heck they're talking about. And then for these schools to allow this to happen is just shame on them. But again, they're pushing the agenda. Another thing is, Walter, I don't know if you heard about this, but these kids, they want to be furries. They wear like cat's ears and a fuzzy tail or something like that, and they're dressed as a cat or a dog or something like that. But if that's the case, I say instead of letting them use the toilet, put a big kitty litter box in the classroom. But that's for another story, another time. But again, these school board people, they don't care about you. They don't care about the parents. I did go to my kids' school board meeting years ago, and they just sat there with absolute disgust and disdain when these parents brought up legitimate concerns about the kids, school safety, the boys in the girls' locker room and classrooms, all the nonsense that they teach in these kids. One good thing about COVID is that you got to see what the kids are learning, and it just shocked me. Well, it should have shocked me, but I'm like, really? And parents were standing up and addressing this to the school boards, which of course fell on deaf ears. And like I was saying before, I got interrupted by our own commercials, is that people like me don't have the time to run for the school board or attend school board meetings or get involved with the schools, because again, we all got jobs, we all got mortgages. We're trying to get out of Fred Sanford's house and get a new, just buy a new car so we can go to work without having the car just fall apart. But these people, I don't know where they get the money or the time. They must, unless they're trust fund babies or something like that, to sit there and just push this garbage on our kids. And the parents, they're too busy doing everything but paying attention to kids to notice, until one day Timmy wants to become Tina, and depending what jurisdiction you live in, like, oh, that's sweet. But even my kids, they're still school age kids. They think it's hysterical that these kids are coming in being transgender or gay or whatever the alphabet of the week is. Well, what say you about these transgender kids and the parents letting them do this?
Well, they're just confused. Plain and simple confused. They're seeing this stuff. They spend a lot of time online. Well, most kids do. They spend a lot of time online reading all kinds of silly nonsense. I mean, when we were kids, we had a newspaper. Okay. There wasn't, anybody else but newspaper people putting articles in the newspaper. Now, these days, you pick up an iPad or even your own phone and just click on anything, put it in the search engine. You can Google any damn thing, and they read it, they get confused. They talk to their friends about it. Their friends are saying, "Yeah, I think that's a good idea," and before you know it, they're wearing rainbow socks and painting their hair pink. So, do the parents have a lot to do with it? Absolutely. I think these days you have to start younger with what your child is to them and how the birds and the bees really work. Instead of saying, hey, you can, son, you can marry a man and you can still adopt a baby. No, that's, in my world, no. My son was educated by his father very early.
All right, we'll come back. We'll talk about RFK and also PD at a polo match. Stay tuned, everybody. This is 75 Radio.
As you are aware, America is divided over every fault line possible. This is intentionally fostered by those who do not love God, family, or country. We believe a peaceful future as a free people absolutely depends on civility. Clarion Call for Civility is looking for funding and volunteers at every level to make our hopes and efforts a reality. Please donate, sign our pledge, and help us in our sacred cause. Please visit callforcivility.com for more details. Callforcivility.com.
The Foundation for Moral Law is a nonprofit legal foundation committed to protecting our unalienable right to publicly acknowledge God. The Foundation for Moral Law exists to restore the knowledge of God in law and government and to acknowledge and defend the truth that man is endowed with rights not by our fellow man, but by God. The Foundation maintains a twofold focus. First, litigation within state and federal courts. Second, education, conducting seminars to teach the necessity and importance of acknowledging God in law and government. How can you help? Please make a tax-deductible contribution, allowing Foundation attorneys to continue the fight. You may also purchase various Foundation products as well at morallaw.org. Located in Montgomery, Alabama, the Foundation for Moral Law is a nonprofit, tax-exempt 501c3 founded by Judge Roy Moore. Please partner with us to achieve this important mission. morallaw.org.
Bypass the mainstream narrative with Liberty News Radio at libertynewsradio.com. Engage with charismatic hosts live or on demand. We cover the crucial news focused on God, family, and country. News that other networks simply refuse to use. Think of LNR's hard-hitting news and podcasts at your fingertips, anytime, anywhere. Join us at libertynewsradio.com. Empower your day with the truth, because the truth will set you free. libertynewsradio.com.
This is 7.5 Radio with Walter Yuku. Walter Yurkow. Walter Kiwi. Here's Walton Scoop.
And we are back. Walter Yurku and yours truly, Scoop Stanton. During those very important commercials, I was looking at the Instagram account of our spokesmodel, the lovely Danila Rodrigues. Follow her at DanilaRodrigues.model on Instagram. The picture she took in upstate New York, just absolutely breathtaking. Anyways, our final story. RFK Jr., he appeared in a Senate Finance Committee hearing where the Democrats just absolutely dragged him across the broken glass, but he held his own. And what kills me is that a year ago, he was running for president as a Democrat. The Kennedy family, they're the closest thing to American royalty. And these Democrat senators looked up to JFK, Robert Kennedy Sr., Ted Kennedy. They admired John F. Kennedy Jr. So here's a guy trying to do his job about, making America healthy again. We're the fattest, sickest nation in America, despite we spending trillions of dollars on medicine and medical supplies and treatment. So anyways, he really gave Bernie Sanders and Pocahontas the business, as Elizabeth Warren, who's just absolutely a horrible person. I never see her smile. She tries to come across friendly or smile, she's just a fake, phony fraud. Kennedy responded to a question like, "Well, you received $855,000 from the pharmaceutical industry," at which time Pocahontas had no response. And then old Bernie Sanders, the guy who complained about millionaires and billionaires until he himself became a millionaire while in the Senate, who never had a real job, he was going back and forth. It turns out Bernie, running for office various times, received $1.5 million from Big Pharma. But anyways, my personal opinion that RFK Jr. was the perfect choice for Health and Human Services Secretary. He is shaking things up, and the Democrats don't like that. So anyways, well, what say you about RFK battling his fellow Democrats for America's health?
You know, people talk about RFK Jr. for, you know, different things. You know, a lot of people think that, you know, his grandfather was corrupt, and that's how, you know, they all got famous, you know, the rum running and the bootlegging and that kind of stuff 100 years ago and such. And, you know, and then JFK, you know, skating through the Navy after Joe got killed and becoming. All right. So, you know, there's a lot of history with this family. And they were pretty much set in stone. They were flat out Democrats. Okay. The issue these days with RFK Jr. is that he actually knows what he's talking about. I believe he actually knows what he's talking about. He doesn't evade questions. What he does is try to answer their questions, but they don't want to hear his answers. They don't want him to answer. Okay, so they'll claim their time back and, you know, from the chairperson or chairman and move on to another question. You see, so they're mimicking what, let's just use John Kennedy, you know, no relation, of course, from Louisiana, how he questions people in front of him. He tries to let them answer, but they don't give answers. So it's just the opposite, that they're asking stupid questions. The Democrats are asking stupid questions. He's trying to give a real good answer, and they don't want to hear the right answer. You know, so they ignore it, and they try to perceive that the person they're questioning, in this case RFK, doesn't know what he's talking about. Now, Fauci, you know, they let Fauci piss all over America, you know, 5 years ago. You know, he had a carte blanche to take it out and pee all over us. And nobody said a word. They took his word. Once Mr. Trump saw that he and Dr. Birx were incorrect, wrong, and going against what the protocol should be, you know, he kind of disowned them. And that's when the Democrats absorbed them. Dr. Birx took a powder, and Fauci, you know, took 10 million and just kept going. He's still going. And nobody's saying nothing. They're not bringing him up in front. So people need to do their own research. We say this all the time on our show. People, do your research. Look up and compare for yourself what RFK Jr. is talking about as opposed to what's happening in the rest of the world. We have more dyes, more chemicals, more minerals in our food, our processed food, than any other country in the world. You know, why are people in Thailand, in the South Pacific, so thin and lean and trim and muscular? It's because they don't eat the same crap that we eat, that's put on our shelves. It's horrible. The obesity rate is way too high. The physical education in schools is way too low. So, did you remember the president's plan when you were a kid? I remember when I was like 6th, 7th grade. You know, it was the president's health and fitness thing. You know, was numero uno way back when. You know, and I'm talking about you know Johnson, then Nixon, and Nixon took the ball and ran with it, so to speak, about, you know, keeping our youth keeping the youth in shape and getting them involved in physical activity. And somewhere along in the late 80s and 90s, that went by the wayside. And the obesity rate is just horrible. The heart disease is horrible. We got rid of smoking. I believe we would be, probably 100 million people less in our country in population if they didn't take steps to curb smoking ads on television and in newspapers and in magazines. The same thing with liquor. They took liquor out of magazines and such. So I believe that if you get healthy, you can last longer. But you got to start young. And that's what Mr. Kennedy is talking about. I believe that's what he's talking about. Start young, because we have kids, that are, 15, 20, 25 years old, and they're 75, 100 pounds overweight. Look at the police departments. They wear those big vests to make them look big. But you take the vest off, they're still big. They're huge. So, Mr. Kennedy is really doing his best to help our younger generation and younger parents to help their kids eat better and feel better and be healthier throughout their life. Because, hospitalization and medicine is just through the roof. Premiums, if you got an obese kid, your premium is through the roof. If he fails his physical every year or comes short of, the BMI index and all this other nonsense, you're going to go broke when the kid has a medical issue before the age of 18 or 21. So this is what Mr. Kennedy is trying to avoid and trying to fix. Again, I always say this may not be in my lifetime, but it's got to be taken care of. It's got to be taken care of.
Folks, that's Walter's Anna Rooney for this week. But, Walter, you're absolutely right, because, not only are we getting sicker and we're getting fatter and we're getting poisoned by this processed food and we're not going out and exercise, we have a shortage of doctors. I was in the hospital last month, and they were short doctors and short hospital staff. And luckily I had surgery because the doctor was performing surgery on somebody else that particular week. That's number one. Number two, the pharmaceutical industry don't want us to get healthy. They want us to keep on the pills. And then we used to go to see a doctor. It's like, oh, doctor, I got this is wrong with me. This hurts. That hurts. I can't do this. I can't do this. But now it's like, oh, I saw a commercial for this pill. I want that pill. And these doctors are getting kickbacks from Big Pharma for prescribing these pills. If a doctor gives you doctor's note, look closely at the note, because it might be for medicine. And of course, you turn on the 5 or 6 o'clock news, and it's all medicine from Big Pharma for old people for whatever that ails them. And then Mike Rakebrandt, he had to retire early from the police department because he refused to get the jab. And there's been, hundreds, if not thousands of cases of people with all sorts of problems. Anyways, for Walter Yerkew, this is Peter Scoop Standard reminding you, you can make a difference. Go out and make it. See you next week, everybody.
Edwards for 7-5 Radio. For those who work the streets and the jails, thanks for keeping us safe. So long, everybody.